tell a horror story of a client trying to secure a property before they came to you, and then tell us what went wrong and how you fixed everything because you were a genius real estate financier.
Okay, so I've had every transaction is a new experience. I will use my friend Molly. She's at Normal. She's also at Greenlight. She's been a client of mine for a while. I just recently did an event with her. She had the idea of she wants a little farmhouse with some land, and she wants do the little homestead life one day and make it a fixer-upper house and all that. And put her with multiple lenders that I trust. If you haven't spoken with a lender at some point in your life, you'll come to realize that every lender has their own restrictions and their own rules. Some are more flexible on certain things and some aren't. However, everyone's got their pros and cons. There's not one that I absolutely love more than the others because they're all a little different. For her case specifically, she has a little piece of land, which I have up for sale right now, by the way. And that caused her to have some issues getting some assistance for down payment. So we ended up getting her with like 6 different lenders. She ended up going with US Bank, which was not my first pick. However, she was already banking there and they said they were able to make everything work, which was fantastic. So great. I'll work with them. If they say they can do it, awesome. Here's the thing. Banks that are banks and not primarily mortgage lenders do not usually do a very good job when it comes to dealing with the loan and getting it to close and doing paperwork correctly, etc. I had to have the manager of that branch on speed dial for 2 weeks because the loan officers would check out completely and not answer questions, not respond to my emails, or they would respond to something and it wouldn't make sense, or it wouldn't answer all of my questions, or like they had given a quote to Molly about her closing costs. So we were expecting, this much. And she was like, okay, great. I can afford that. It's a little tight, but I can do it. And so I was, working with the seller, got everything set and going. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, by the way, your closing costs are this now.
Yeah.
And so I called the manager again and I said, hey, what is going on right now? Because my client can't do that at this point.
Yeah.
We're already past the point of renegotiating.
My girl has her back. Nice.
I like I said, I had to have him on speed dial for over 2 weeks. And so he was like, let me look at the file real fast. I'll get filled in and then I'll call you right back. Give me 30 minutes. And I was like, okay, click. He calls me. He's like, hey, we waived a bunch of the fees and stuff. So we got it down to, this much only now. And I was like, okay, that's more feasible. Fine. And I ended up waiving one of my fees for her because it was still kind of high and it was very tight for her. So I ended up waiving one of my fees for her to make it more comfortable. And then we get all the way to closing day, no real issues after that point. However, we get to closing day. She signs the docs. I'm with her, give her little goodie bag, and then we go back to her place because, we want to open the door and, get excited. She has a couple things in her car she wants to get into the house. When we're at the house, she gets a call from the lender, and the loan officer says, hey, where's the contract for you selling your piece of land? And Molly's like, what? What do you mean? And she's like, oh yeah, the one that you said you were going to sell in order to get money for the property. And she's like, I never said that. I just said that I might sell it if I needed more money. And she's like, oh, well, I have it set here as part of a condition for the loan.
Oh no.
Box, it's closed. The bank owns it now. So
what?
So she's freaking out on me, and I, understandably. And I call her.
Oh my God.
We're talking. I said, "Give me an hour. I'll figure it out." So I call the manager again, and
You know what
I'm
this
like,
sounds like? I'm going to interrupt for a second because we're
"You're
all
good,
going
good."
through this government shutdown. This sounds like they do every time they do. It doesn't matter if the Republicans or the Democrats do it. They're always saying it's always the other guys because they snuck in this stuff at the last minute and now we don't agree to the deal. You know, that
It
sounds
was
like the same kind of a
yes,
thing, right?
yes. Well, so
Ah,
they had put a condition on the loan, and they never told her at any point that was on there. And
wow.
so, and we didn't need to sell it. There was no reason to sell it. She was just brainstorming with the lender about how to get more money if she couldn't come up with down payment assistance. And we ended up figuring it out, so it was fine. But then they never took it off. And so I told Molly, I said, "Look, Molly, they own the property at this point. So they either got to give it to you some way or another, or they got to own it by themselves now. And they don't want that. They don't want the house. They want it to be your problem." And so I call the manager and I tell him what's going, and I'm like, "What the?" And I'm wringing his neck, and I'm pissed at this point. And he's like, "Give me an hour and I'll figure it out." I'm like, "Okay, click." And so he calls me back and he's like, "All right, we got it all figured out. I just have to have her sign this one document saying, such and such, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Okay, cool. So you don't need anything else, right?" And he's like, "No, I looked over the whole file. We should be good." And I was like, "Better be. I hope I never talk to you again." But, and so she signs the doc, sends it back over. And the audacity, a couple months later, they were the worst lender I've ever worked with, US Bank. So for the love of God, if you have your money at US Bank, do not get a mortgage through them. Do not. 2 months later, they put me on their email list for spam emails
Oh, fun.
from their loan officer that ghosted me from like the first week we started talking.
Oh, wow.
And
Nice.
so I responded to that email. I said, "You were by far the worst lender I've ever worked with. Do not ever contact me again." Yeah. And that was a fun experience. But it all worked out. She loves her house. She has an amazing greenhouse in the back. It's a cute little farmhouse. It just needs a little bit of love, and it's a really cute property. It's in KC, which you wouldn't expect for, I think it's a couple acres or something like that, 2-3 acres, whatever it is. And it's in this little tiny like nook of KC that is like kind of off by itself, and they're kind of in between two different areas, so like nobody really bothers them. And I'm like,
Nice.
this has worked out great.